Today. Here we go, Pat. We should be able to hear you now. Pat, how you doing?
Yeah, all good.
Good, good. So, Pat, we're doing the WBR race. WBR chop race. You did this just over 2 weeks ago, and it was on the Watopia the volcano course. So, today the London Classic course. Did you catch much of the race last week?
Yeah, I caught last week's race because I was really interested to see the different course. I really thought London Classic would really suit, particularly the A and B grade is a lot better because you can hold a constant rhythm. Because in the volcano circuit, that was something that really split us apart off A grade was just the change of pace and particularly into the volcano and out of the volcano. So I think again tonight we'll probably see a little bit of advantage towards the A and B grade categories.
Yeah, no, definitely. And last week, and basically in the first week for this race in the volcano circuit, I think we had the C group took the win. I think it was actually Ben Gove from the C group. Last week on the London Classic course, we actually had Cameron Roberts take the win from the A group. So the actual gaps have now been adjusted a bit by Ben Gove, the organizer of the race, and the A group are going to be going 3 minutes after the B group. So we might increase that gap a bit more. So some of you are just tuned in. I see we've got people over on Facebook, over on Mixer and Twitch. Welcome to you all. Any questions, we are watching the chats, and we can take those questions and try and answer them for you. Also, let us know if you've got any favourites for the race or any predictions, because of course the beauty about the chop race is that any category could potentially take the win. Right now we're watching the D group, who were the first group to go out on course. We see they are here wearing the Go Zwift, wearing the kit in Gamba kit in game. I think also then the C group will be wearing, I think they're wearing the WBR kit from I think it's from 2016. And then I think the B group have a WBR team kit, one of the team kits, and then the A group have another WBR team kit. So, this is not like a normal race where it is, the one person going for the win, attacking all the time. These groups here need to stick together to not get caught by the groups that are behind them, which are chasing them. So it's a staggered race or a handicap race, and that's something that you're quite familiar and it's quite popular in Australia. Is that right, Pat?
Yeah, so in Australia, handicap racing is quite prevalent, particularly at a club level, but also in a state or national level as well, depending on where the race is held. But some of our most prestigious races are actually handicaps. And what you might see during the night is comments popping up on the right-hand side, riders in the groups also communicating to each other. And just the same as you would in real life, you always have that sort of a rider that's got a lot of experience, and handicap racing is about experience. It's about a bit like a time trial, really. It's about measuring your effort. But good sized groups in D grade, C grade, B grade, and A grade tonight. So it should make it for a very interesting race.
No, definitely, yeah. And we've got some people asking here about who gives the handicaps. So Ben Gove, the organizer of the race, he will look at the groups each week, look at the strength, look at the course, and try and get it so that the groups have all of a fair chance of winning. And we spoke to Ben last week in the post show about what's his aim, and he said one of the things is to kind of try and maybe get everyone together towards the end of the race, so we have one big kind of sprint. And we've seen actually seen a comment here from Kiefer Leonard saying that Ollie Jones and Cam Roberts are going to give us a tow tonight. So I think that must mean that Ollie Jones is racing in the A group. Pat, you familiar with Ollie Jones? You've seen him race. You know a bit about his story, don't you?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. Ollie was lucky enough to be the winner of the Zwift Academy this year. And so he's been with the Dimension Data Continental outfit all year. So he's been racing in Europe. So he's very strong. And by a toe, I think that they're hoping that the two strongest riders in A grade will do all of the work tonight for that A grade group. But Ollie, this is really his niche. He's a very strong rider, and he will have no troubles in producing the power required to catch other groups. It'll just depend on whether he's still got some fuel in the tank after a bad fall recently. He's actually in a sling. I think he's injured his collarbone pretty badly. So he's using this as just a way to keep fit. But 150 plus riders on the start line tonight in the 4 grades just shows that this really has a big future on Zwift.
No, definitely, yeah. And now we can swing back and take a look at the B group. So the B group have just set off now, and they are a total of 5 minutes after the C group. So we've seen a few little dropouts of the rider information coming through here, but we'll be able to pick up on those again in just a moment. But we see, here we go, as we said before, different kit in game. So they are wearing the World Bicycle Relief Power of Cycles bicycles kit there. So this group here, the C group, are going to be trying to chase the group behind. So just a little note on the screen, you'll see at the top where we're saying watching R, Calic, SAS, ADHR. We'll see the D icon next to the name. That is just something that's just been left behind there, a little bit of a bug that we know about, but we are actually watching the C riders. You can keep tabs on the right hand side. So we see a little bit of a gap here. We'll see they start off a 5-minute gap. We'll click our way through. So see from H. Mackenzie to the back of the C group. It's currently it's back of D group, sorry, currently a 5-minute gap. So that gap is already, these D riders have already kind of got an extra minute over, also an extra minute over the C group from the start. So this C group really needs to put the power down, Pat, there, I think.
Yeah, well, if you're watching at home, have a look at the screen each time. And the watts per kilo is the really interesting one to watch, because if a group is really working well together, you will see that the riders that are right at the front of the group will put out a little bit higher power than what the people drafting. And it's what it is more about in the chop, or even handicap racing in general, is that when that person finishes their turn, that next person's ready all before they finish their turn to already start to continue that pace that they've set. So down the right-hand side of the screen shows you each individual rider in the race's watts per kilo at any given point. And what I could see was in that C group, their watts per kilo was not the same as what this group in front, the D graders, was pushing. However, maybe the C grade really know their abilities and they're riding within their range, if you like. Sometimes what happens in your lower grades is that they think they need to go really hard because otherwise they're scared of getting caught. But really, you've given a handicap based on your ability. And if you ride to a certain amount, then you shouldn't get caught.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think these riders, the handicaps are based over longer efforts. So like they're usually based off your like FTP or like 0.95% of your 20-minute power. And so maybe some of these D riders have thought like, right, we got caught by the C riders on our like 3rd lap last week. So let's all work together. Let's really go for a really hard gap and put that kind of like false sense of security into the C group and like try and get then make them to make the work to try and catch us rather than trying to then put that hard effort in afterwards. So I think that's what we're going to be seeing here. But this D group here are working really well together as well. So almost completed just about to start their first of 5 laps as well. As they go underneath the Prudential Ride London Arch on the Mall. So I think we're now 19 minutes into 9 minutes into the race. So the B group would have set off now. So that's a little bit of a jump back so we can find the B group, as we do see here, right here, the B group off coming up down the south bank of London, south bank of the Thames. So we've got also the Pain Cave. Are you familiar with the Pain Cave? We had a few riders from the Pain Cave the other week, Pat, as well.
Yeah, the Pain Cave, it seems to have a good representation on the Hump Day ride as well. That's a ride I do every week. It's good representation on all of the major rides on Zwift. So I don't know a lot about them, but I do know about their presence and I do know of their existence. So it'll be interesting to see. You can see it's a large group again for B grade. You were just speaking about that D grade, and then the way they ride influences the way that C grade rides and vice versa. That is the really interesting part of handicap system, is that, you're probably right. As D grade starts to take time out of C grade, should I say, that makes C grade panic, probably ride a little bit above themselves. That's perfect for A and B because they know in that last lap or two that those 2 grades in front will get tired, and that's their chance to really catch up. But also what's great about the handicap system is, generally speaking, that gap is made, as you said, for a longer distance race. So hopefully tonight we see it all sort of come together towards the end.
Yeah, yeah, and so you're a category racer, Pat. So like you've seen these three groups go off ahead of you now. So like what would you be thinking? Like what would your like advice be to your or maybe your orders to the A category to make sure you take the win? What would you be? What would your strategy be in this race?
I think the key to the strategy, particularly on a Zwift, but also in real life handicaps, is to have in your mind a realistic target that would be a great effort for the group in front of you to achieve. So that might be that it might be 3.8 watts per kilo. If B grade can hold that, then they deserve to win. So if we can hold, say, 4.5 for the same period of time, we should catch them. And that is what I'd do in a real life handicap as well. I'd have ideas of how much time I'd be wanting to take out of the group over a certain amount of distance, knowing that you're probably not going to take a big chunk in the first part when everyone's fresh, and important to keep the head on. But if you just continue to stay at a really solid pace and work well together, obviously at some point, particularly towards the end of the race, those other grades will be starting to think about winning if they're in front, which will slow them down. And that's really the time to really power on, and you can make a difference.
Sorry about that there. Sound went down. Thanks for the comment there. So yeah, so saying that on this here, the riders basically the A riders caught up to the A riders on the Horse Guards Parade up that climb, and then we saw some of the B riders actually sit in on that rest of that group. So the B riders, like even though if they get caught or even if C riders get caught by the A B group, they've still got a chance to win if they can sit in that draft, because that's something that like happens on Zwift. They can like actually draft and get an easier ride, can't they?
Yeah, they certainly can. And if you're in other categories too, it's a really good way to learn how to facilitate in breakaways as well. So, for example, you have a look at the rises on a course. If you can't climb so well, or you're worried that, so for example, you might say, I'm in C grade. On the flats, I know I can hold A grade, but it's their accelerations on the hills. Then if you're in a race, this real life race or Zwift, and you've got, say, 30 seconds and you've got a couple of kilometers before a rise, push a bit harder, get to the top of that rise, take a breather, get caught then, and you can sit in the group. And vice versa, if you think you're stronger on the hills, then get caught on a hill so that the other riders will get tired that aren't so good on the hills. And then when you get on the flat, you should be able to hang on. So you can always be thinking about how do you use the type of race and also your advantage or disadvantages to actually become helpful to you. So that's what I'd be thinking. If I was in a B grade or a C grade, even a D grade, and a grade's catching me, I'd be looking to get over the most difficult part of the course for me personally before they caught me, which would give me a period of time to sort of find my rhythm.
No, definitely, yeah. I think hopefully some of these riders did. I see you watching a few of the A group riders there. Just dropped back and jumped back to the B group. Got a few questions coming in here, Pat, about what Zwift is and what they're watching, people over at Mixer. So a few questions of like, can they crash? So the riders, no, they cannot crash. They're on a set path, a set course. So they might fall off their trainers in their house if they're putting down hard efforts, but no, they can't actually crash. But yeah, we'll give a little bit of those who are new who are watching this over on Mixer, Twitch, maybe on Facebook, you're wondering what Zwift is, why you're watching these people. So like Zwift is a massively multiplayer online cycling and running game, and it's also a training program which allows users to interact, train, and compete in a virtual world. So this is one of the virtual worlds based on London. And the way that you control these riders is you don't use Xbox controller and bash buttons. Basically, it allows riders, people to ride on bikes indoors on what they're known as turbo trainers or ergos. And as they push down their pedals and turn the chains, their effort is converted into basically a number of power. And that power is what we see on the top left-hand corner. So we see this rider here. L. Peters is putting out 273 watts. And that's like a normalized kind of, like you would measure temperature. You can measure power as well. So like if you're putting in that effort, you can compare it with everyone as long as they've got like a well-calibrated parameter. And that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing riders across the world, mostly from Australia, because it's an Australia and New Zealand focused race, all riding against each other to race in the Chop, which is this handicap race that we're talking about just at the moment.
Yeah, and we get a lot of those questions when people come into our store. We have a store locally, and we have a Zwift experience set up full time. So people come in store, they see what it's all about. They also ask, you don't need to turn either. So you sit on that set course that you were mentioning, Johnny. But there are power-ups, and it is a game effectively. It's just a game that you have to work incredibly hard whilst doing it. And that's what a lot of the competitors tonight, they're in this race because this will push them harder than what they probably would have. It's an incredible experience riding on Zwift, whether it's just for a general ride or it is for a race. But the amount of people that I've met through Zwift as not just riders that I've met, but also then I've been out at cycling events and people now say, oh yeah, I've seen you on Zwift all the time, and oh, you crushed me in this last race, or they beat me in another race. It's really great community as well.
Definitely, it's a great community, and it's people all over who started to see in Australia the community is very tight, but we see teams being formed in game. Almost like you have guilds in other games like World of Warcraft. You got these teams that all kind of hop on, ride, compete together. See watching Jeffrey Creel here, who I think he's from Western Australia. Is that right, Pat? Jeffrey?
Yeah, and he's a really strong rider, but at the moment it seems that he's. And we can see that A grade's really splitting up quite a lot, which is not probably the ideal situation for them. As we back with the D graders, we remember them because they're in that kit for the in-Gamba kit. So we tell the differences, and I think I like that a lot about what they've done with this particular race, the Chop, which is a handicapped race with 4 groups that they wear 4 distinctly different jerseys. So you at least know, yes, we've caught a group. The hard thing is that there's quite a lot of riders, so you don't know if you've caught all of them until you're right at the front.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah. And we've seen that. I think we've seen that group split up there because we've actually seen a few issues with getting information from the riders. So we see some riders dropping out here. That's just we're having a bit of struggle getting the information through the game clients. So we see we're stuck on Jay Anders at the moment, but I'm pretty sure he's actually surrounded by a lot of other riders. So we'll try and find a stable group to sit with just for the moment, and then we can see what's going on. Because it looks like currently, if we go down to the B group, there you go. The B group started to populate a bit more. So there, and then we're back onto another thing there. So we'll see how this goes for a bit longer. But if we see a few more issues like this, we might just end the broadcast prematurely because it's very difficult to give any worthy content on what the state of the race is whilst we're a little bit all over the place. But we'll try and get a bit further there. Here we go. See if we can sit with this B group on Jay Mogavro coming up this climb here. So just trying to see the group.
Another one of the Pain Cave riders. I mean, they're amongst several of these groups, but this is a really difficult section for particularly the C and D graders. for just if they do get caught in this situation, this would be problematic. So we were talking about earlier about getting into a good position. They need to survive this hill each lap to make sure that they can stick on to the better groups when they do catch up. And in a different way, it's hard for B and A grade because you may be a rider that's decided to really help the group out quite a lot on the flat section leading in. You're quite tired and someone decides to sort of upset the tempo is what the terminology we use, which would be to really spike your effort. So to go from a constant pace to just lifting it really quickly, and that could end the day for a fair few Zwift riders in those A and B categories.
Yeah, because I guess the last thing you want is like, someone thinking like, right, come on, let's put the pace down, doesn't really communicate well, and suddenly that group gets split up, and then the riders at the back are chasing hard, and then they've lost all their efforts. They've burnt too many matches right at the start. Like, we want everyone to kind of work together. As we see, like the B group seems to be a really well formed group. If we do like a little bit of a hover over here, we see that the group originally was 35 riders. I said there's a good still 20 riders in here overall, all working together as well. So I think this B group might do quite well. It looks like they're about 2 minutes off the back of some of the front racing C riders as well. So this looks like the C group here of this is a C group here that they're trying to catch. So it's about 2 minutes behind the C group here. Do you think they'll catch some, Pat?
Yeah, I do. I think they're well organised, but we spoke earlier about that watts per kilo. So if we have a look here, the general watts per kilo in this group for C grade is sort of around 3, anywhere from 3. Well, they're raising it a little bit now. I think they're feeling the pressure coming from behind, but it's anywhere from about 2.5 to 3. We're back in the B group. It was more like 4.5 a lot of the time just on that section, and that's a huge difference in power. So if they can maintain that, I'd expect that their gap would be under a minute coming into this lap, and they've still got quite a distance to go yet. So, but doesn't mean it's all over for C grade. We've already touched on the fact that you have that opportunity to get in the wheels. C grade's much more likely to hold on to B grade than what they would A grade. So this could be a good opportunity for someone that might have been a little cunning and been sitting on in the C grade group, and then when B grade catch up, they've got a bit better legs left in the tank.
No, definitely. Yeah, we'll sit onto the C group here for a bit longer because we might, if we're lucky, be able to see the B group come down the mall on the other side as well. So we might just be able to see them come by. But they are still, the C group are looking at still about 2 to 3 minutes behind the D group. So that gap is still pretty big. And, we've still got, 20, I think it's like 18 kilometers still to go. So there's still quite a big, gap to close down. So, This here we go. We see just there up at the top of the screen, we see the B riders coming around that corner, chasing them hard. So they're probably about. What do you think that distance is about? Just over a kilometer. Do you think they've closed that gap down to about a minute now?
Yeah, around a minute and a half for that group. But I think we saw D grade just go out so hard at the start. So it's going to be. I expect them to slow down a bit quicker. I think C grade has, and we sort of touched on it, but C grade's really ridden a measured race. Okay, B grade's within a minute and a half. They've halved their difference at the start, maybe a bit more. But certainly C grade look like they've got D grade's measure at the moment. It'll be up to D grade to see if they can keep the same work rate they're doing right now going for a further 18 kilometres, which is more than half the distance that they've covered already.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like they're still putting down, this D group is still putting down like 2.5 watt per kilogram. Like throughout, so they're still, it's a good old pace they're keeping. We can watch, it's almost might be more accurate for us to look at the speed that they're going at. So the D group are actually going 38 kilometers an hour here. If we drop back down to the C group, so the speed is being matched by the groups. They're maybe going like 1 kilometer faster, but is that 1 kilometer faster enough to close down what we're seeing here as like over almost a 3 minute gap? I'm not sure it will be.
Well, the big thing. Well, the big thing for D grade and C grade as well as what we spoke about is on the difficult parts of the course. On the flatter parts of the course, A grade is going to be significantly quicker. We see 56 kilometers an hour there. Ollie Jones, he'll be driving it for A grade. But when we were coming down before with C grade, we're looking at speeds of like 43. So there's 14 kilometer speed difference between those two grades. And I think also you would see quite a big change when you start to see in the top right-hand corner on the map, we've got -1% at the moment. That's the incline or descent of the terrain. So they're actually slightly going downhill at the moment. So in these fast sections and also in the very tough sections, so anything that's sort of 4% or above, that's where D grade will lose the time a little bit. But they've still got a lot of time to play with at the moment.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is like, when we saw, there was, a 1% decline here. We see that they're going up a 1% incline, and the speed there changed to about, changed almost by 10 kilometers per hour slower. But this B group here that we're watching are now going 48 kilometers an hour on the same section that the C group was going at, I think 38. So this, I think this C group here, this B group, sorry, might catch that C group within the next lap, because definitely that effort they're putting down is a lot more, and they're going to be very wary that not far behind them they've got the A group chasing them really hard, because that's the thing is that you're trying to catch the group ahead of you, but you also want to try and keep the group behind you away, unless you can match the speed and then hop in there and get a bit of a free ride as well.
Yes, well, notably in Australian handicap racing, generally speaking, second scratch is the foe of scratch. So second scratch can either ruin Scratch's race or really help it. So that would be B grade tonight for A grade. So if they got together, they'd really probably cause this massive peloton that would be a force to be reckoned with. But at the moment, all four groups are almost trying to break one another. So we'll have to wait and see who breaks first. But certainly out in front, D grade continue to work well together. C grade really not panicking at the moment. But with A grade about to hit the major difficulty on the course, it'll be interesting to see how much time they take out of the front groups of B, C, and D.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I wonder whether we might actually see any catching at all, as these groups are keeping their gaps pretty closely. But I think, if everyone else is watching, you've heard what, Pat and myself had to say. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think they're going to catch? You got any predictions on which group, which category will take the win? Any riders you think you might be watching out for? As we did see Cameron Roberts last week go really hard and take the win in the A group. He did that with over a lap to go. Attacked on one of the climbs as they come round the left-hand turn in just a moment, and had a full lap, maintaining about a 30-second gap. And we can see that we're going to bring a little replay up, and you see actually how that how the gap, how that catch happened between the B group and the A group as we bring it up just now. So we see that the A group got Lindsay Savatsky here coming up this climb. As we see, the first on the A group, it's almost like they had a power-up tactic here. So first they popped the featherweight power-ups here, which helped pull the whole group up to the B group. And we see that as that B group started to get attacked and that merge happens between the two WBR kits, some of the B riders started to pop the aero power-ups to try and latch on, because they can still latch on, sit in that draft and get a bit of an easier ride, put out some lower watts per kilograms to keep on with it. And then we start to see some of the A riders then pop in some aero power-ups as well to try and kind of maintain that gap. So that was a pretty good tactic there, and that happened with 20 kilometers to go. So we're coming up to about 3 kilometers for 3-4 kilometers from where this would actually happen last week, but we're not actually seeing any of these at all this time. We're not seeing any kind of big moves like this from any of the groups, and those gaps are still maintaining pretty well throughout the whole race.
Yeah, I think there's two things to think about with that. Is that last week, obviously, a lot of these riders had the opportunity to learn about how A, the race would take place, but also B, how they handled the course, also how much time they lost, where did they lose a big chunk of time. So those sorts of things. So still got 2.6 kilometers for the front group before we see the situation that we saw last week, this rain coming down now, Johnny, that could play a part. We just don't know.
Oh, I know. You never know. You never know what's been programmed in there. Maybe the rain gives them, some extra weight, or maybe it makes them a bit more aero. Who knows?
Yeah, and so they learned about it last week, but also I don't know if we touched on that the handicaps do get altered depending on the previous week's results. So as I said, I did the Volcano, which was one of the first Thursday night, the chop races, and A grade and B grade never got close to the victor. So the handicaps got brought in, which made it a shorter distance between A and B and C and C and D. Last week we saw A grade win. So again, the handicaps were altered again. So it should, by rights, if all things are well and good and fair, the grades should come together later this week. And if it's perfect, well, they'll come together right on the final straight 500 meters to go.
Yeah, because also, I think from last week to this week, it's only changed by 1 minute between the B group and the C group. Sorry, the B group and the A group. But this is like a whole different race than last time. Like, these riders here, Cameron Roberts is asking for a time gap. We'll try and get you a time gap there, Cameron, to see what we can say. But we're looking at, so changing the B group, 18 minutes to that rider. It's looking like you got a time gap of probably still around 3 minutes there. To the group
to
there.
The head,
yeah, to the top. So it's still a pretty big gap. And they're only just cameras. So they are currently. You guys are going up towards the mile, and they are just at the other end of the mile. So actually, no, it can't be about 3 minutes because that's not. This is only a kilometer, so they must be getting a lot closer than that. So we might, if it's A group, we'll keep watching this A group for a bit longer because if they keep putting it down, we see that's got to be Adam Webb going off the front there. Adam Webb, we always see putting in those numbers coming down the straight here, and then everyone catches up to him. So if they keep doing this and Adam Webb keeps pushing that, they might catch them again on that climb. It's possible. It's something that would be good, interesting to see the same points. That A group definitely getting fitter because I know they were definitely calling out for more people to join in with them.
Yeah, well, Adam Webb, he's the type of guy that when you're racing, most of the group dislikes him because he's breaking up the group. He's not really working to the common goal, unfortunately. However, I do think that this A and B group is close. I know you touched on just 1 minute change in the time between A and B. I think if it was 1 minute between A and C that had changed, it doesn't make as big a difference. But it's that the difference between A and B, really, as we see the group on the other side of the mile, it's the difference between A and B isn't really a lot in physicality. So it will take a great deal more out of A grade to catch B grade for having 1 minute more, even if they caught them early last week. Because also you need to factor in the fact that rather than last week, they'd already nearly caught B grade, the effort that they're going to have to do tonight is going to go a lot longer before they catch up. So they don't get that help either. So they're all things to factor in. That's why handicap racing, 1 week you can have 4 minutes, the next week 3 minutes, and actually go better the week that you get 3 minutes head start because conditions favour you.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I was just thinking about that there, how if they catch them in the time difference, I think, if I was a B rider right now in that group, I would start to kind of maybe consider even easing off the pace. So therefore, maybe because it looks like they're not going to catch them at this lap. They might catch them on the next lap. So maybe if you start to ease off the pace, then you can maybe get a bit more recovery and then try and latch onto the group for the final lap before making a sprint for the line. What do you think about that sort of tactic? Is that something maybe worth doing, or is that totally just no, that's never going to work?
I think it really depends on your capability of getting up the solid incline on the backside of the course. If you've got good legs up the hill, then I'd probably consider waiting. But if not, I'd try and get up there this next time, then get caught by A grade. And you got one really hard effort up there towards the final, and also hope that the A grade acceleration would sort of split the group and then you're racing less people. But I don't see too many of the B graders really excited about coming up against Roberts or even Creel or Leonard, any of the Ollie Jones. They really don't want to be sprinting against these guys. The sprint's very different in this race as well. Unlike some of the group races, you can save legs on part of the course. Generally, you're expecting that most of the riders are contributing, so they're all getting to the line with fatigued legs, so you never sprint anywhere near as well. But that does mean that sometimes people that don't sprint well in the group races really do actually sprint quite well with tired legs.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, some of the riders like, Cam Roberts and Jeffrey Cool, some of those riders that we know have got a great sprint in there. Sam Mobley, is Sam one of the other riders that, is that S Mobley, Sam Mobley, one of the riders who was in Just Academy last year? Do you know, Pat? I seem to recognise the name.
Yeah, I think
he
took.
Yeah.
Yeah, he certainly races in the National Road Series here in Australia, which has only had one round so far this year. But the series will really kick off later in the year, and it's a real kick for these riders to get on here and get their form before the season starts. So many of the National Road Series Continental registered riders are using Zwift now as preparation because it's too good of a tool not to use to your advantage. Well, here they go up this time, and Ollie Jones is also really contributing a lot. We know he's injured, but so we spoke earlier about him being the Zwift Academy winner this year. So he got to go away to the Dimension Data training camp, and he was successful in winning that scholarship. And it'll be interesting to hear about his whole year at some point because what an exceptional and exciting journey.
No, definitely, yeah, and that's Sam. So Ollie there, he's a rider that will be with very soon, as we're probably looking to start to kick off the next Zwift Academy in the next few months. So hopefully, someone will have more stories with to find out how he get on and his plans for next year. I'm just seeing like there was actually a B rider there who'd J1 who'd dropped back and was sitting with those A riders there for a bit in that climb. So a good ride on to him there. But here we go. So I think the group that these are chasing, the B group, we see them just on the map there, the mini map, coming around the other side. So see them just swap to areas there. So still, looking probably about 1,200 meters. Gap. Yeah, still a big gap there. It's still flat. If they can keep this effort here, I think for this B group to really be into a chance, they need to basically not get caught on this next climb. I think if they get over the next climb without being caught, I think they're into a real good chance.
Yeah, let's also remember the bigger your group, the more the draft and the faster you move as well. And that's really helping B grade at the moment. We have a look at the size of B grade. Back at A grade, we could see that some of your more experienced riders, particularly Roberts, who's been absolutely incredible in the eCrit series so far, in the prelude to the actual eCrit season coming up in Australia, he has started to really rip it in, and some of the other riders in A grade are really paying the price. So they're down to about 10 or 12 riders in the A grade bunch versus something close to 30 or more riders in this group here in the B grade. Be interesting to see just how far they are off the C graders and D grade. C and D probably need to be pretty close to coming together if they're a chance to survive as well.
Yeah, and let's have a little bit of a scan up the course then so we can find that C group. So it looks like this is the main C group who are probably, looks like probably about half a minute ahead of the other group. And we might, a bit longer actually on the other side of the course just now. So we should be able to see if we spin around here, we can find that moment where we actually see the B group come down the other side of the wall. As they will just be coming around that corner at any moment. But that is a big 55 riders starting that C category. So we see there you go, the B group going past. And that seems to be like a good gap. We should do a bit of a time check on that. I think it'll be just over a minute. Let's see what that gap is to that B group, because it was. So now the gap's come right down. That was like 3 minutes before, and now it's down to 50 seconds.
The catch by rights should happen between C and D grade right towards the top of the rise. So these D grade riders have really got an opportunity. Potentially there's a rider in this D grade group that doesn't think they're a chance today, maybe thinks to something a little bit, donate some of their energy, basically sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Knowing, though, if they do win, they're probably going to lose a little bit of their handicap next week. So there's a few things on the line here. But definitely some strong riders still there and still working hard in the D-grade group. This D-grade group could still go all the way because they're still maintaining that 34 kilometres an hour. So the difference between the two group speeds, not all that large.
Yeah, definitely. But that gap is coming down, as it was 50 seconds just before we started talking about them there, and it's now come down to 34 seconds. So it's closing quick. Do you think it'll happen on this climb, or do you think maybe just on the strand coming past? I think this C group is definitely going to catch this B group. We see that, almost can see them now. They can almost catch them on the end of the end of the view, looking forward.
Well, the thing is that if you to catch them on this rise, they will have to attack out of the C group, and notably in this circumstance, if you've been swapping off, as we call it, the chop off, if you've been working with your group pretty hard, and you do a massive effort to ride onto this front group, you may find it very difficult to maintain any kind of power worthwhile after that. So I think that B grade's really just got to ride a C grade, should I say, ride a solid climb and try and catch these riders in front, probably right towards the top.
Yeah, because it looks like they're not going to get on this lap here, but they've got one more lap, this final climb, so they may just catch them on the final lap as we're at 25.6 kilometers. We've got another 6 kilometers to go left in this race, coming to the final lap here. So definitely getting closer. But this is what the beauty of this race is, Pat. This type of race of chop is that it really shows that like any team, any category, any rider, no matter what your ability, has an opportunity of actually winning. Like you could be, you see lots of races. You see the A races, the KISS races, the CVR. All these races are like very focused on like the top level of racing, which is quite rightly there's no issues with doing that. But as a rider myself, who's not an A rider, I do kind of there's a little bit of demotivation there, thinking like I'm never going to be on the podium, never going to get a chance to be at the top. But like shows with this that anyone has absolutely got a chance at getting a chance to win the race.
But I also, the way I look at it, and the reason that I took part a couple of weeks ago as well, not only just to see what it was all about, is also it's the great thing about Zwift. It's a community, and it's a group of people of all different levels from all different walks of life, and we learn that at the live events as well. But this is the capability for these D graders who are potentially even fans or followers of some of the A grade riders in the National Road Series here in Australia, or even Ollie Jones, who rides for the Dimension Data Continental team, to race against them and have a real chance to beat them in an event that's fair. And it builds these relationships, but it also it grows the cycling community too. So I'm a huge fan of this style of race. As much as I am a fan of, say, the E-Crit, which is really, really separate categories and very tough racing as well, I think that both really play a vital role in what I consider the ecosystem of cycling.
No, definitely, yeah. And I think that's one of the beauty of Zwift is like you can ride against people of all abilities. From like we've seen actually starting to see something happen there. I'll just finish my point. You can ride against people of all different abilities and efforts, all different backgrounds. So you could be someone who does a bit of commuting to work but enjoys a bit of Zwift time in the evening, and you could be hop on after work and find yourself then riding next to like Mark Cavendish. Or Matt Heyman, that's the kind of sort of like environments that we've got thanks to Zwift. But we are actually we've seen here we've got the D group with the C group very close behind them, and we also saw just then coming down the strand we saw the B group also. So these groups are starting to get closed really quickly. It's quite an exciting time when we're going to see all these maybe start to come together with one lap to go.
Yeah, well, it's a handicapper's delight if they come all together in the final lap because, well, we know handicappers love to believe that they know exactly how much handicap they should give, but they don't always get it right. Well, they're getting it pretty close tonight. Can these D graders, have they taken enough breath to jump in with C and last the final time around up the toughest part of the circuit? And also, what does a C grade do now? They can't just get in this group and just back off and take it easy. They have to keep pushing forward because certainly the difference between C grade and B grade is a lot bigger in power output than what it is D grade to C grade. So it'll be interesting to see how these two groups work together now. And, well, I really would like to see someone from one of the lower grades. So if it is C and D that fight it out, someone from D grade to run in that top 5 positions would give me a lot of thrill.
No, definitely, yeah, no, and I think there's some names I learnt from doing this with Wes Sulzberg last week. So like T Bagshaw here, a rider that's done almost all of them every week. So maybe Tony Bagshaw can get a win today. If he can just grab on, just want to get him onto the back of that group and just like really help, get into that draft and benefit from it because there's a lot of opportunity if he just gets in there, sits in that group because that gap is starting to go out a little bit more now. How about yourself? Do you recognise any names in these in this C and D group?
I was seeing a few familiar names just from actual racing earlier, but I was going to mention we just saw the rider you were talking about just leaving a bit of a gap. And that's not so bad when you're with your own category, but you certainly cannot do that when Bagshaw is still trying to fight to hang on. But I think you'll find that another acceleration, and it could be all too much because these gaps become very hard to hang on. So we need to find sort of some D graders that have filtered themselves in the front 20. We saw Brown was doing a lot of work. He's one of Wes's riders over in the Wolfpack Tasmania, obviously. It's great to see them not only have A graders in their Wolfpack now, but all grades. It's great to see, but keeping an eye out for the riders. You spoke of Calic earlier as well, right up the front of this group. So, and we just see B grade on the other side.
Yes.
So that must be down to around that 35 seconds. This is going to be a ripper of a finish. I can see it all coming together with about 3Ks, 2.5 kilometers to go in the race. So it's going to be a very exciting finish. But A grade, I think their night is done.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to see if we can see the A grade coming down the mile there. We might just see them, but I think that gap might just be too... Oh, here we go. There's the A grade coming down that side there. So they play about another minute behind. A lot of work to do. And, we've still got about 3 kilometers left to go. So I don't know. It's a hard one to call. Everyone, if you're watching now, get your predictions in. Let us know what you think is going to be at the end of it. Is it going to be the A group, the B group, the C group, or the D group? Just type it in there and let us know, because this is going to be really close race. Probably one of the closest that we've seen so far of getting all the groups together. And great job by Ben Gove to kind of get all these groups together. And it does actually look like a lot of these C riders and D riders have actually maybe be able to keep together, Pat. So looks like a mega group. If these can all work together now, they might be able to, possibly be able to hold off that ever faster B group, which is going to be trying to catch up to them behind.
Yeah, well, they're certainly working well together, and that is the key in any handicap system race. If you can work together, there's going to be some pretty harsh words being shared back in the other grades, because I'm sure there's been a couple of riders that haven't really taken their fair share of the work back in the B grade. But B grade, for them to catch these two grades, someone's going to have to sacrifice their night. And well, on a Thursday night, the shortest day of the year for us in Australia, is there anyone willing to sacrifice their night? As we see Evans on the front, and well, it's going to be a really cool finish. About 40 seconds, the gap, it looks like. And I don't know. I think that it's going to be fought out between C and D. We might see a B grader just make the junction, but they're going to have to really let loose.
Yeah, and we see these A riders here all starting to split up a little bit now. I think there's a little bit of a panic going on as they realise they're not going to be able to catch up to them. I think that it's game over for these A riders, but I think the Bs still might have a bit of a chance. Looks like it's going down. The gap is, you think it was about 40 seconds? Yep, 40 seconds to this main group. Maybe just over a minute to the front of this race right here, as we do see a lot of these C riders have managed to keep in contact with the D riders. D riders in contact with the C riders as well. So it would be great to have a bit of a D rider in there, but we see that little bit of a stringing out of this front group here as we're going up the climb, and I think that is like the key. The key difference between the Ds and the Cs is that a little bit of extra watt per kilogram to help you on those climbs.
Yeah, there's 2 D graders in there, though. You can see them. They got 3 now. The white jersey with the red stripe, that's the Ngamba kit. And they're sticking in there. That's what you want to see. You want to see some fighting spirit. B grade really coming hard from behind, but I think the gap's just a little bit too big. You can see a couple of tactical maneuvers here. Some of these riders also may not possess a good power-up. So some of the feathers we saw popped on the climb there. But we've also see some riders will probably possess a aero power-up, and that will be so crucial in a finish like this, particularly with tired legs. So they're about 1.7, 1.6 Ks to go, still a decent gap, and we still can't see B grade. Just in the distance they are.
Nah, definitely, and it is, this group coming down, and we haven't spoke about power ups so much. We've obviously got the featherweight power up, which helps you up the climb, but that I think it is that probably that era, or maybe even the drafting power up is the one that these riders are going to be hoping to hold at the moment as we're coming under the Flamme Rouge. So 1 kilometre to go. What are your predictions? Any names in here you fancy to pull up to take the win there, Pat?
Well, we've got to pick someone, and you know what? I love the Aussie Hump Day ride. So, Kellick, SAS, who does the Aussie Hump Day ride, obviously with that in the brackets there, you're my pick for tonight, and already has the fastest segment on course for the sprint. So that says good things. He needs to use his power up to perfection, and I think maybe tonight going long. That's the way I like it. So we'll go long tonight with Kellick.
Nice, good call. I'm going to go for, I quite like K Yap. K Yap's got quite a cool name. He's sitting there just behind our Kellick, sitting at 6 watts a kilogram. He's going for pushing a bit of power up as we see the front of the group going up here. We've got some Scottish riders in there as well.
Moving up.
Yeah, here we go. Riders going up. We've got got Guts in there. L King coming out. I think it's Taiwan as well. S Bird. So these riders here coming up the front. Not much of a movement right now. They're still putting some big efforts in. But who do you think's going to take this, Pat? See some aero power-ups coming up there.
I was hoping for Kellick, but it's Sterney that's now opening up. Now we see the aero power-up. Sterney, Smith. Can Smith come over the top of Sterney? 250 to go. The power's still high. King coming from behind as well, but it looks like Smith's going to get him on the line. He's coming with too much momentum. Smith. K. Smith. Only just on the line. So K. Smith. I think there's a pretty nice incentive for K. Smith too. If he's an Aussie, I think there's a nice first place prize tonight.
Yeah, and do you have any more details about that first place prize? I believe that was coming up from organised by the Chop, wasn't it? By Ben Gove.
Yes. Yep, so I'm pretty certain. So Ben Gove sent through earlier tonight, and he said that the first prize, as long as Smith was an Australian, because the Australian riders are only valid for these prizes, $80 light and easy voucher, because they're actually helping Ben Gove prepare for the Velothon. So that's going to be a lot of fun for him for the Velothon coming up soon on the Sunshine Coast, I believe. And also there's a couple of codes available tonight as well. So free shipping from online tonight. So that's with pushies.com. If you put in the code free ship, lowercase, you'll get free shipping any order over $30.
Good stuff. That's a great little incentive for the Australian riders out there. On the course, we do see all the riders starting to come in now. The B groups are coming in. The A group are starting to follow in behind as well. So a great race there. Should we take a little bit of a look at that last kilometre there, Pat, and see how that all panned out? Because a few riders up there, we actually maybe see when that move from K Smith got happened. I'll bring it up just now if you want to lead the commentary on it.
Yeah, it was a sustained sprint from Smith. I thought it was Kellick in perfect position at this point, but just didn't have the legs to move up before turning on to the finishing straight. But it was that launched really early. I think if we have a look back now, Smith was already at the front, but it was Sterney the American, in fact. So looking at their flags now, Smith is an Aussie, but it was Sterney that really launched first, popped that aero power up, but following him quite quickly, Smith was right on the wheel. And I think that these riders have really made B-grade regret not riding harder and splitting their group up a bit more. B-grade, a huge group come to the finish, but it was the C-graders that took it out. Sterney, big sprint. But have a look at that slipstream by Smith. Comes over the top. He always had the momentum, so he took first, then it was second. That was close for the top four. Looks like your man, Yap, was very close there, probably a top five. So definitely you get the points over me tonight because my man, not quite there.
There we go. So back again. So yeah, I think huge congrats there to the C and D group there for keeping those B and A group riders at bay. But hopefully, Ben Gove can maybe tweak the times again next week to have a bit of a closer finish again. Maybe get those Bs and As up into the mix with the Cs and Ds as well.
Yeah, I think we saw A grade give everything they could, but maybe B grade just need to try a bit harder. They were so close, but as I said, with a group of 40 odd riders, it probably says that they didn't go hard enough on certain areas of the circuit. But a great effort by the C and D graders, and particularly the D graders who got quarter lap to go to hang on all the way to the finish. Congratulations to those riders. Well done, and well for doing the chop again tonight.
No, good stuff, good stuff. Okay, cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there as we have done another week of a chop. We'll look to be back with you next week. I'm not sure who'll be covering the broadcast next Thursday evening, but we'll sort something out so we can bring the excitement and see how this race format develops week on week. Pat, any finishing words before we sign off for the night?
No, just fabulous to see so many people taking part and the chop growing every week, particularly the C and D grades. And bad luck for the A graders.
Yeah, too bad for the A graders. Yeah, not too bad today. Hopefully they'll get better tomorrow. And we will do a quick 15-minute live interview on Facebook over at the Zwift Oz page afterwards. So if you are in any of the groups, get onto Zwift Oz. We'll go live there very shortly, and we can find out from each of those groups, maybe what happened. Maybe we can get some of the A riders in there to find out like why you didn't quite make the cut today. But thanks very much all for joining in, and we'll check you over at the Zwift Oz Facebook group in about 5 minutes time. Thank you very much everyone for your time today, and ride on.